First up is Vincent, and the character looks really good. Um, it's got a lot of personality to it. Got a real style, kind of a sense of line, and kind of fun. The lips look really well formed here, and the nose is good, and it's kind of funny. So this is, I guess, a separate surface. I just sort of want to see what's underneath. Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter too much if we don't see those. I feel like the lower little area could be formed a little bit more where, it's kind of pushed in this area more, like maybe there or here. I'll just B for soft select and sort of like that. However, if he never has the mask off, it doesn't matter. It just depends. If he does, then. And I think there's enough geometry to close the lids there. It looks like it, but yeah, you want to be able to close the eyelids. I thought it looked maybe a little sparse here. Maybe you need another. I think I would go in and do that just to make sure you've got the proper lids. Like add a couple extra loops and shape the bottom a little better. The bottom lid. And oh, that's funny. That must have just been a little mistake there. Oh, for some reason the eyeballs have been combined. How did that happen? Oh, from the mirror. Yeah, I think in your mirror options, yeah, and this extrude I think is a mistake. I think that's what that is. I bet we can take that off. I bet you did that. You just accidentally picked those faces. Let's see if we can select it and delete it. Yeah, that fixed that. And then I don't know if we can change the mirror options afterwards to make it not combine. No, but you can always just do mesh separate. So those are separate objects. Excuse me. That's looking good. Oh, you've got a little collar. That's nice. And yeah, that's all looking alright. Good. Well, I think really I think this is gonna work pretty well. I guess I'd like to see a little bit more definition in the front, maybe a little more shape. These are very kind of parallel lines, and normally I would say have the legs be vertical and not out at this angle. So you might be alright on the rig, I think. A little concerned. But should be alright. Terminated triangles here. What you can do is, if you take, oh, you've got that one. Yeah, if you take this guy out, shift right mouse click delete edge, that's now a four-sided face. So like you can take those out when you're terminating those edge loops and still end up with quads there. Let's take a look at the hands. Really nicely, you can tell you spent some time on these fingers. I think, in the last video I was pointing out the kind of closeness of this extra edge here. I would still try and spread that out some more. It's so close to this other one. Maybe you did a little bit, I don't know. But these two are so close together now. I guess it looks pretty smooth. But I might take this guy. What happens if we slide this one? I mean, think that's better. Although maybe not too far at the top. Anyway, not a big deal. It doesn't look, it just looks a little funny around here. But not too big of a deal. But yeah, really nicely formed hands mostly. And yeah, I mean, I think this should rig pretty well. Yeah, should work well. Good work. Let's take a look at the outliner. Looks like it's pretty well labeled and all that too. I don't. Maybe that's from when I deleted that thing on the eyes or something. But yeah, really good work. Next up is Katerina, and yeah, it's looking really good. Nice shape to the shoe. I like the bottom of the pants here. Just a good clean model. I think maybe those kind of stick out a little bit far, but I guess that's alright for a stylized thing. Hands look a little dense. Wonder if you can lose some of these loops and keep the same shape. I guess that's not too big of a deal. It looks like you did make them thicker. You could also make the palm a bit thicker. You might kind of pull some of this out to just kind of fatten excuse me, kind of fatten that up a little bit. I'm just doing B for soft select and picking kind of a big area here. Maybe some of that. Kind of feel like it needs to push back in the middle here now. Just holding down B and clicking and dragging. Anyway, you could play with that a little bit, just giving it a little bit more mass. And you could also maybe do the kind of pads here. The base of the finger, a little bit more, maybe a bit here. Anyway, I mean, you could put a little more time into it than that, but you know, the idea of getting a little bit more shape to the hand, I'm not real happy with this right here, or I feel like that could be a little bit more generally pulled out, but it might be good to use rather than the direction to use the normal. So hold down W, axis, normal, and maybe make a bigger thing here, and just that kind of helps fatten things out a little bit better than just pulling it in one direction. That's already a little better. I'm just thinking he's such sort of a fleshy kind of, you know, there's a lot of fat on his body, so I feel like that will be reflected in his hand more. Maybe I'll push this back down a little bit. Anyway, you get the idea. What else? Let me just see this without the mustache. A lot of edge loops on there, but it looks pretty well formed, so that should work well. You know what I meant to look at on the last one that I didn't was the mouth cavity, so I think you might want to extend this mouth cavity. there's a mesh display. So display polygons, backface culling, so we can see that inside. And this one is okay, but you might want to scale these up a little bit. If it'll let me, let's see how that does. Yeah, that's better. And maybe this one can be a little bigger too. And might move this back a little bit. Anyways, you know, shift right mouse click, extrude edge, and let's move it back and a bit bigger, etc. That's not great. Let me just slide edge. Shoot. There we go. Anyways, and just kind of fatten those out a little bit. But the idea is you want a little bit more of a mouth interior than you've got here. Glasses are nicely built. I like those. Hair looks good. Maybe a bit kind of bulbously round. Maybe like flattening it a little bit. Kind of pushing it back in to kind of flatten it a bit. Collar looks good. Yeah, I still think the pockets just look a little funny, the way there's sort of these sacks that are hanging down. I'm not sure what would fix that. I don't know, maybe look at some reference and try to get inspired. They just don't look like the kind of pockets that you'd see on a kind of jacket. You know, the way they're hanging on the outside. I mean, normally you would just see the opening to the pocket. I'll almost just lose them and see. Maybe just paint it on. I think that would be better. They just keep bothering me. If you love them, keep them, but for me, I would lose them and just do that in the texture. Yeah, I think this is looking really good. I feel like you overdid it in your edge loops here, and I think that's accounting for some of this kind of funny bumpiness. And I wonder if we could take out a few of these and say that one maybe, or this one. Oops. Shift right mouse click, delete edge. I think you could take out at least that many. You might be able to take out one of these too. Might have lost something in the nose there. Well, but yeah, those I think. Yeah, maybe there's another one in there you could take out. I'm not sure. I think you could try taking out one of these. I feel like I'll really lose some shape in the nose though if we did that. So I guess leave it. Yeah, eyelid's pretty dense too, but you probably need that to shut the eye. Yeah, that's not too dense. And this isn't great the way you've done that. Yeah, but it looks okay there. The only problem with that is that I think that's going to be pretty hard if you try to change that, you know, like to animate it when he raises his eyebrows and stuff. But I think it's all right. I'll just leave it. And does he have much of a neck? A little bit. But it looks like, yeah, we're really seeing the edge of this. So, oh yeah, we've got a big gap here. And is that the shirt? So I think this area needs to be resolved a little bit because it's like the neck goes up to the collar, but not inside the shirt. It's outside, way outside the shirt. And that's, so I think you need to kind of finish there. So, you know, you need to continue this, shift extrude edge and move that down, and then add some divisions. And then you kind of have to, you'll have to go in and shape those loops. You know, probably one by one, and you know, yeah, I think that also that the shirt needs to be much wider here. I think, you know, to fit the neck in it, that's got to be cut way open. Because that's much more narrow than the neck is. Let's just look at these two things. So yeah, that you're gonna have to resolve that whole situation, because in no way does the top of the shirt match the neck. So I think you need to kind of rework that shape to fit the neck. You might, you know, take off the top. Let's do it like this. Because these, yeah, these I don't think you can use. So shift double click to get that loop, and then shift greater than, delete that, and then let's just get these two again. I mean, I've made a real mess of the bottom part of the neck. Obviously, you'd have to really sculpt that, but the point of the story is that you'll need to, you know, work on this. I guess let's you know, just wrap these around, etc., etc., until that matches the neck better. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but and then, you know, shape that and shape the neck until you're got something that looks good. Okay, yeah, look, it's intersecting the jacket now, so it still needs more. But I didn't finish doing the front. I only did it around the back, so that needs a little bit of work. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's the main thing to fix. But it's looking really good. Next up is Lindsay, and yeah, this is looking good. I think this came together well. I can see that you've done some more work on the hands, and I think that's an improvement, though I would tend to, this segment of the finger looks very short, but I think if you pull those out and did the spheres like you did at the you know, at these other two knuckle joints, like you would, because you want them to bend here as well, but they don't have sort of the mechanism to do this. So I would pull those out and put an additional sphere there to connect them, and same on the thumb, and I think that will be a lot better. Um, and the rest of it's looking good. I think you could clean this up a little bit, maybe get stuff in a big group. I think the face has a lot of character to it. It's looking pretty good. I think that doing a blink with those kind of bulging eyeballs will be a little challenging, but it'll be okay. Are these spheres? They're kind of a flattened sphere with a weird dent in it. Not sure why. Normally an eyeball would just be a plain sphere for the most part. So you might want to swap that out. Because the reason is that it's a pivot centered. Let's just double check. Modify center pivot. Sometimes you can get kind of, I guess that, see that's what I mean. See how that's kind of like when that turns, it's sort of like intersecting the eyelid. That's a result of using a non-spherical eyeball. So you might want to. I mean, it's okay that you did the extrude for the kind of iris thing, but I think the eyeball itself should be a sphere as opposed to this kind of flattened sphere thing you did. I guess you could just fix it here. You just want to make sure it's then not intersecting the eyelid that's been, looks like, kind of carefully, but I guess it's not that carefully sculpted around it. There's a big gap here that you might want to fix too. So yeah, I just think the eyeballs themselves and the area around that could use a touch of work. I think the lips lack definition, and you could argue that's purely a style, but I don't know. Right now it looks a little funny to me. I think if you had a little bit more of a sense of lips, I think you'll find that better to work with when you're animating the mouth, and just kind of this sort of concave curves here, this kind of almost beak-like upper lip, I think is going to be challenging to work with. So I might spend a little bit of time on that shape and alter that some, and give yourself a little bit more of a rounded lip. Hair's alright. Maybe you want to put some, I guess you got a little sort of part thing going on in the middle. Yeah, I would do this as one kind of continuous. I mean, I guess it's really one or the other. Either this is one continuous thing, or you should do another ball joint here. But the way this one just kind of intersects into the other, I think isn't going to look that nice. So either it's this one continuous head and neck surface, or put another ball joint in. And you could, let me just hide this for a second. You know, you could, why is that so like bumpy looking there? That bottom of the surface got a little wacky. Why is it saying large number of faces? Do you want to, you know? Yes, don't ask again. 2, 3. It's kind of weird. Yeah, they got real kind of stretched out here, so I can see how you didn't end up matching it to the hole here, because that will be difficult at this point. Did you smooth this at some point? It doesn't say, all the history is gone. I'm guessing you might have smoothed this when you didn't really need to. And so I would say, because it looks pretty dense, so if you have a version of this before you smoothed it, maybe you want to go back to that, and then maybe it'll be easier if you want to create a hole in the bottom of the neck and then extrude out from there to, I meant in the bottom of the head, and then extrude out from there to make your neck. Yeah, I can't select all the way around. I can do that one. So two faces. Control right mouse click. I don't know if I want all those. Probably just this row. And then take all that, and then I can maybe extrude edge inward a little bit. Well, actually, oh, see, it's crisscrossing those. That's not going to work. How about thickness? No, still pretty not good. Wonder what happens if I try to spherize this. Is that this one? No. Oh, this one. And then yeah, that's not too bad. And then you can, from there, you've got a cleaner thing to, if you wanted to make a neck out of it. Something like that. Anyways, you know, probably too thin, but you get the idea. Boy, does that look dense. Yeah, if you have the version before you smooth it, I think that would be really good. Yeah, so yeah, just those hand things, and then the neck area and the lips, I think, would be the main things to work on and clean up the outliner. But overall, it's looking good. Next up is Yao Nun, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. I think you know, because the arms are up at the sides, you could try to do a little bit more of a shoulder shape here. You know, pulling these up some. Maybe these guys too. Maybe use the normal direction. Just sort of bulge those out. Kind of compare the two shoulders, so you got a little bit more shoulder there. And then similarly, you could kind of push in the armpit a little bit more. I could pull this out a touch. But, so, I don't know, compare the, it's a pretty subtle difference, honestly. You could go further with it, but look at the shoulder and armpit here, and then look at that just kind of flat connection there. Your character doesn't really have a neck, and that's gonna be tricky to really do much with the head, because you want to be able to somewhat freely. I don't know why this has been combined. It should not be combined, so we'll separate that. So I would say give him a neck. That would be my advice. I think you'll struggle without a neck, because if the head's rotating from here, the head's gonna kind of mush and move around the shoulder and chest, and you want to be able to do head tilts and stuff, and this is going to be very limited in the amount it can do. So that didn't work so well. And I'll just do Control Shift to, oops, to select the rest of those. Control and Shift. There we go. And I was thinking I would just kind of push it up a little bit. Oh, let's grab those. I don't know, fix the eyeballs later, but that's exaggerated a bit, but maybe, you know, something like that, and then Control Shift X to get this in, and you can add some detail, and then, whoops, grab that edge and scale it in a bit, you know. Something like that, you know. Maybe I went too far with it, but I don't know. Maybe I could slide this edge down a bit. So I don't think that fundamentally changes the character so much, but now at least you have a little bit of a neck, and gosh, I really think that's going to help when you want to start moving it around. And you could define that a little bit better if you want, but that's just a general idea. Yeah, get the tail straight, and I guess you didn't kind of incorporate that into here, but that's probably okay. I guess this will need more loops though to bend, you know, so you'll probably want to add a lot of edge loops in there to be able to get some shape out of that, because it will not be able to get shape with just the one edge loop there. You'll need one, you know, there's probably going to be 10 or so between there and the end, evenly spaced. Yeah, I mean, I understand you're going for a paw, though these would just be aware that these fingers will be really limited in what they can do. They won't be able to grasp very much, but you know, that's okay depending on what you want to do with your animation. So so like, yeah, it's sort of an interesting compromise between a paw and a hand. I guess it works okay. And yeah, the mouth, you know, because of the cat-like thing, is different. I mean, there's not really lips per se because it's a cat mouth. So just want to see what that mouth cavity looks like. Yeah, you'll want to kind of open up this mouth cavity if you can. You might need to manually go kind of edge by edge, and or even points, you know, and widen this out, you know, and then so clean that up, and then extrude it back some more to create a mouth cavity opening in there, like I demonstrated earlier. And yeah, you could give the lids a little bit more shape probably. And the eye, maybe, you know, we could push in some of these if you want, just to get the rest to I'm not loving that, but no, it doesn't look great. Anyways, but you could play with that area a little bit if you want. Okay. Yeah, I think overall this is going to work fine. There's a few tweaks you could do to improve it. Next up is Andrea, and yeah, so it's looking good. I think that maybe these balls could use a little bit more, some sort of shape or detail to them rather than just being spheres. I think the face looks pretty good. I think that maybe you want a little more detail and shape around the eyelids. And then I think this shirt, again, I think needs, you know, to be sculpted, I think, to the body more. I might take these and scale them in some, and whoops, looks like I missed something. No? Oh, that's kind of weird. What's going on there? Something funny about that. Anyway, I think maybe you need more detail here too. Maybe let's make sure backface culling is off. Oh, there's already a little intersecting thing here. That's kind of funny. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's just that looping around. Yeah, maybe you need to like another loop here and maybe one or two here. Oh, and this is sticking through too. Let's see if we can turn on symmetry, and that's the wrong symmetry. Probably X. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, watch out for that, but I think this stuff could kind of maybe scale in a little bit. This one too. This one. You know, just start to get a little more shape to it. It's very, I don't know, it just doesn't look like it's kind of hanging on the body. And I think the same could go for these arms. You know, get it a little closer fitted to the body, rather than this sort of very baggy shape. And I think it'll remain a little baggy and amorphous as she moves around. So I think it's going to look better if this is generally more fitted. And yeah, I mean, you could even, you know, look, if we got rid of this, I guess the body shape could use a little bit of attention too. But what I was going to say is you could duplicate this, and let me just hide the original for a second, and then you could sort of build the shirt out of the body. So you know, something like that, I guess. And then just, you know, invert my selection, delete that, and take this and Control F9 to convert to vertices, and then move mode, hold down W, axis, normal, push this out a little bit. Let's turn that Control Shift H to get that back. And then, so now I have a shirt that's like really closely fitted to the body, and then you could sort of tweak it a little bit from here and kind of, you know, thicken it, add those edges wrapping around there, and on the bottom maybe add a loop here or something. Oops. And, you know, shape that a little bit more. But I think already it's much more closely fitted, and I think you're going to have a better time with something like that instead of what you had before. And what else? I think these are looking alright. Maybe you need another holding edge here at the top. Might come across better. Yeah, giving that a little stronger shape there. Actually, they don't look that different. Oh, for some reason, were these? Oh, are these? I don't know why that doesn't look much different. I don't know. Wait, that. Anyway, Just undoing those. How are these? Are these like somehow mirrored or an instance of each other or something? L shoe shape. Oh, it's like a instance. Is that what that is? Right shoe and left shoe, but they're sharing the same shape now. Oh, so that's an instance. You will have to at some point convert your instance into a surface. I think you can do that here. Modify, convert instance to object. So once you're done, that's why I was changing. When I changed this one, I was like trying to compare the two of them, but they're actually the same shape node. But look how sort of thin it gets at the top in the smooth mode there. The reason they're both changing the same is that's an instance. So I'll put those back in. Something like that, and that's why it changes on both. But then once you're happy with it, you will need this to be a separate object, so you can do modify, convert, instance to object, and now it's its own object. So left shoe shape, right shoe, left shoe shape, whoops, should have its own shape node now. Yeah, it does. Okay. Whereas before I did that, just undoing back again. If I change it on one, it changes it on both. But after you convert instance to object, they'll be separate. Oh, sorry, my crashed on me there for a minute. So regarding the eyelashes, there's many different ways of creating eyelashes. However, I would just maybe stay away from them for this class, just because it's just challenging to get to work well with your blinks and all that kind of stuff and your facial expressions. So I might just keep it simple, maybe paint on some eyeliner when you do the texturing, and just stay away from lashes for this class. If you're determined to do it, you could check out some of the many tutorials that are out there, but maybe do a little, the neck is looking a little funny in back here, maybe give it a little more mass there, but yeah, anyway, this is usable pretty much as is, just a few additional tweaks can improve it some. Okay, next up is Natalie. Yes, so it looks like you've made some progress. You don't have the holes in the shoes. You might wanna, I think a lot of the same stuff I went over in the critique last time is still an issue. Like I mentioned how you were adding these edges when you did your extrudes, these 5 divisions for some reason. So don't be doing that. And there is a whole thing in the tutorial on how to attach the arms, so you're going to want to get those properly attached. Get that shape worked out better. This in no way is anything like the tutorial on making the head, so that's not really usable. You'd have to start over with the head, and this could use a lot more shape. So honestly, for most of this stuff, and there's all this some really crazy stuff here, and I guess I kind of would give you 2 options at this point. I mean, one is I would redo this and follow the tutorials more closely. I mean, the thing is to just watch a couple steps in the video and then do those steps and make sure you get them right, and then while it's paused, and then watch a couple more and do those, etc., back and forth. But that's not at least what's happening with a lot of the character. So what I would say is, and the thumb's not attached, and I mean it's just not usable, or even close. And the head, this is nowhere near a usable face. So the 2 choices would be, 1, just to redo this completely, and 2, if you just want to use a stock model for the subsequent assignments, to be able to go forward in the class. So just get back to me and let me know what you'd rather do. Next up is Elena, and yeah, you're making some pretty decent progress coming along with this. Lips pretty well shaped, and obviously you're not fully caught up. It looks like something happened with that side, but you'll just have to delete half and mirror again, and you'll want to work on, just getting this rounded, the shape of the head, um, and on the ears and stuff. So yeah, there's still a lot to do. Um, but it is coming along. There's extra copies of stuff here, so I'm not sure why. Yeah, you have like multiple. Wow, what happened here? There's a lot of legs. So many legs. What in the world? I wonder if you had like your duplicate special set to something and you accidentally did multiple copies or something, because that's, yeah, anyway, get rid of all those extra copies of the legs. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, while this is obviously progressing decently, although you have a ways to go, what I would say is, your choice is finish it, or because you're following the tutorial, you could use the stock model to move forward. So let me know what you'd prefer to do. Next is Joanna. Um, I think might give character a little more mass on the chin area. That was my first reaction when I saw it. And I think I mentioned this on the last one, I can't remember, but you might want to work on these shoulder shapes. It's kind of, I think that you'll want the body to kind of narrow here around the shoulder, sort of before it goes out into the breast. And maybe even out this topology a little bit too, where you've got quite a spread there, and then you can take out edges like this one, because then that creates a quad there if you're trying to terminate some of those edge loops. But then try to even out these out a little bit, because they're sort of bunched up. Actually, maybe turn on symmetry, I guess. Oh, I probably already messed it up. Anyway, something's going on with this thing. Was that like that for you? That looks a little crazy in this area, and I guess just in general. It's a bit of an odd surface that I don't think is going to work well. But yeah, I don't know what happened there. I don't think I did that. Let me reopen the font. Yeah, it's kind of messed up here. So I don't know how you did this, but just maybe try to redo that, because that looks pretty messed up. I think that yeah, you'll, as I mentioned before. Oh, it's not. I don't know that it's symmetrical as it is. Symmetry. It's on. Yeah, see, it's not currently symmetrical, so you'll want to redo that to make it symmetrical. I suspect that there's something like, I thought maybe there's some kind of seam here, but maybe not. But there's definitely some extra edges you can get rid of. Turn those into quads there. And then, as I was saying, you'll want to kind of even out the topology. Well, that's symmetry is working, I guess. I think you'll want the neck to be thinner here. That's interesting that it won't pick that edge loop all the way around. Oh yeah, because of those triangles there. So I think for this you'll want, geez. Let's turn off symmetry for a minute. Scale that in quite a bit, to get it to look more like a neck. I'm just going to delete this for now because that seems problematic. I'm just going to do, let's just play set to face, and then let's just shift right mouse click. Select the faces, I guess, and then face normals. Or soften. Soften hardened edges, soften edge. Will that fix that next situation? Yeah. Okay. So that edge there, but I was thinking, you've got to work on this so that it's not such a harsh difference there. I think some of these could be slid down and a bit, and then this stuff maybe slid in a little closer to the neck. And oops, that went a little crazy. That didn't work well. Don't know why. It's funny. So you might have to do that more manually. But I think overall the shape here, the way it just sort of like, boom, it kind of bulks out there. I think that needs to be worked on. If I kind of, let's try this one. Maybe get a little bit smaller. Just kind of scale that. Not real happy with that, but maybe just scale both of these first of all. Yeah, it's not picking up the whole edge loop because of the way you terminated those. There we go. Maybe this one a little bit. It's starting to look a little better to me. And then this shoulder area could soften a little bit. Surfaces, sculpt geometry tool options, smooth that out. I've lost my symmetry, but that's okay. I would just, yeah. And then now I probably would put the shoulders back in now that I've kind of evened out the topology some. Maybe actually do like a normal thing, move out the normals to kind of bulge those out a little bit. Maybe push this in some here. And then again on the back a little bit. Probably here, push it in. I think maybe you need some more topology there, maybe to shift one of these edges over a little bit. Yeah, kind of spread these out a little bit more. Maybe a little more shaping on the breast here. Anyway, I just think you need to sculpt this more. Definitely this underarm area needs to be pushed up. B for soft select. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it needs more work. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would, always go back to your anatomical reference, of a real human. I think will help. Hands looking pretty good. Um, Legs are looking okay. So yeah, just still think a little more mass there, and maybe adjusting the position of that underarm and working on the breasts and stuff. Maybe a little bit more in the back. I'm getting a little bit more kind of scapula going on. Um, yeah, I think that this could use a little bit more shape to it. A couple more loops, and it kind of really flattens out here and loses the lid shape, and you want it to come to a little bit more of a point there if you can. Um, don't don't combine surfaces. I don't know why people do that. I keep seeing that over and over again. Don't know why. Yeah. So I think it's coming along. I think it needs some more work and some cleanup, and especially around the shoulder areas. I don't think I did that much good. I think it needs a lot, definitely some more sculpting there, pushing in the arm more. But yeah, keep going. Next up is Ariana, and the legs are looking okay. The boots are still looking pretty well, very boxy to me. I think you could give that some better shape. Yeah, just use some reference on that. I think, if you're gonna have the shirt's a little, what's going on with the body? Okay, it doesn't have one. Yeah, get this to kind of well, I would bulk out the body some more, first of all, and because it's pretty. Yeah. Anyway, you might need to be a little bit more careful on it, but it should, more closely fit the shirt, and then give this edge, a little bit of thickness. We'll screw it again. Oops. Which direction is that going to be? Like that. Sort of gives it some thickness. I might do another. We don't really have an edge loop around this big cut here. The way you kind of cut it out is a little odd, but I mean, I guess I could just put one here, and I'm real happy with that, but you kind of need something to hold it. I would just terminate that edge loop. And so now it's got a little more shape. And then do the same to these, kind of wrap the edges around. These hands are a bit, odd shaped and sort of stretched out. And it's just got a bit of an odd look to the face. I'm not sure exactly what you were going for. But it looks, it's just for, it's not human proportions, so, human head kind of goes back like that, and then, not that it has to be human, it can be more cartoony, but right now it's just looking a little weird. So, although the topology is about right, I think the shape could use some more attention. And the chin's kind of very small and sharp, and kind of the whole thing sort of comes to this point here, and I think you want to round that out. When seen from here, it kind of, and the chin too is a very sharp point there, and I think you want to round that out as well. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it's, obviously you got to work on these hands and the shape. They look very pulled, elongated in that vertical direction. For some reason, I think you want these fingers a little closer to cylinder shaped. It seems like there's a lot of extra edges here, and Hands are looking a little dense. So, um, yeah, I mean, it still needs a fair amount of work. And the hair looks kind of weird too. It almost looks like a bathing cap or something now. So I'm not sure what you were going for exactly with that. Um, so yeah, I think it's technically usable, but just the proportions are very weird, and I think things could use some more shape and sculpting on them. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would say you could either keep working on this, or you could use the stock model to move forward with if you prefer. Let me know. Next up is Shane. Um, yeah, um, coming along. I think maybe looks pretty good. Hands look good. The gloves. I think if you could get a little more definition of the knee and probably a little higher up. The knees look really low to me right now, and the overall length of the legs. Um, that would improve. And I think last time I talked about these kind of very sort of sharp things you're doing here with the. I don't know if that's supposed to look like armor or body detail, but right now the edges are really sharp, and I might soften those. I demonstrated that last time. I mean, I guess it's a shirt because the neck is going inside of it, so maybe it's just supposed to be armor then. And I think this maybe goes up a bit too high here. Maybe soften that a little bit. Face is coming along with the. Yeah, I think this nose is kind of difficult. I mean, I understand you're going for an alien nose. I guess the sort of classic alien thing I think of is that they almost really have no nose. They just have sort of two little nostrils. Not that you have to follow the classic alien thing, but this nose, and I think part of the problem is it's really crowding the mouth, and it's so close to the mouth, and then when you try to animate, you won't be able to move the lips without moving the nose, and I think that's going to look kind of weird. So I think that area could use some work and be resolved a little bit. The lips are very tight and very sharp here, so you might want to kind of go a little bigger with that and maybe round those out a little bit more. And right now there's not really any usable eyelids, so if you want to be able to blink and close the eyes, you'll need to add a lot of loops and shape some eyelids into there. So yeah, overall I think it's a usable character. I think there's a few improvements though that you could put in.